an interesting thing, you wrote some kind of, I don't know how to call them, but like you expressed some interesting thoughts. No person who feels separate can end separation.
That's from you.
Yeah, refrain from judgment. I see the results from refraining from judgment. Cultivation of trust and acceptance and selfless service. Again, you see, you said Bhagavad Gita writes about selfless service. You know, I mean, once you restore that complete sense of self, you perceive knowledge beyond words. You understand all the scriptures and understand, not that you understand them separate or from you, you become yourself that vessel of knowledge and scriptural knowledge, because that scriptural knowledge is just an expression and word. But originally that's a part of our collective consciousness within the cycle. So you simply open up to that frequency and you become that frequency, emanating through the physical vessel. So when people speak about selfless service or trust or acceptance, these are verbally, they're known words, but they are unknown to the majority of people as an experience. Because acceptance is such a deep trust. Again, trust and acceptance, they're one and the same thing. It's such a deep trust in the flow of life. But how can you know of that flow if you haven't surrendered to it? If you haven't awakened to that natural flow? And to surrender means you surrendered the trauma into that flow. So you're no longer in control of that traumatic life, because before, all you know is the flow of trauma, because the trauma is driving your existence. Now, that's what I was speaking, that's what I was talking about in that webinar when I spoke about false destiny. Because we think we're having our destiny, but before the awakening, our destiny is driven by our trauma. And during the awakening, it is driven by our trauma. Only after a certain degree of refinement, when the light, when the natural being, and again, it's not a visible light, please, it's just a different frequency. When that frequency predominates in one's existence, one surrenders to that frequency, it starts driving your being. And then you discover your true soul destiny, which is nothing but inner refinement, but it's in a particular way because you have accumulated certain experiences and knowledge, and you need to dissolve them so that you evolve further, so that you realize the higher aspects of maybe that knowledge, because maybe now you agree with certain aspects of knowledge or with certain pieces of information, but it's not your practical understanding. You don't see the higher dimension of that same knowledge. Let's say you know something about plants, but you don't have higher knowledge. You don't have that spiritual dimension of what these plants are for, who created them, and so on and so forth. So the more you evolve, the higher aspects of knowledge get revealed from within. That's called self-born knowledge. So you're not attempting, you're not trying to grab, because that the desire to grab is dissolved. That desire to grab is a sign of corruption. That desire to learn is a sign of corruption. You know, simply because all these desires are dissolved. You are that what you are, because there is no desire to be anyone. There is no need to call yourself out. Who am I? Because there's no need. You know beyond words. If someone asks you, who are you? You don't know. You don't want to say, because there's nothing to say. Once you surrender to the natural flow, you're a part of the higher frequency. The higher frequency is beyond individuality, is the collective flow. So the majority of people have no even capacity to imagine what would that be to be a part of some sort of a flow of a collective cluster, because they so much want to emphasize their individuality or even an individual aspect of themselves.
Yeah. And they how do you say, they consider that they are their body.
They bind themselves willingly to these fragments of oneself, to this corrupt aspect, to these unhealed shadows of themselves. They bind themselves.
Yeah,
they see them sometimes.
That's what I want to say. Identify themselves.
Identify themselves, absolutely. But that is called corrupt identity. When you identify yourselves with all these corrupt shadows or aspects, you create the whole identity even around your awakening. You create the whole identity looking for signs and premonitions. Oh, am I evolving? Does it mean I'm going to change? Because you cannot embrace the present moment as the best moment of your life, as the complete moment. Because if you embrace it, you will know the right way to go further, to embrace the next moment, to embrace the next, to step out of this moment into the next moment. No, you hold on to the past. And that's why that past drains you, and that's why you age, degrade, stop your evolution, because maybe you've broken through for a little while, and then you again need to hold on to something. It's because you have this unrefined sense of self, which still needs to grab something, to hold on to something, to validate itself, to create some kind of comfortable feeling within the projected reality, because it cannot simply live through this surrender. And how can we then speak about selfless service? Selfless service is a natural selfless expression where or when one does not have thoughts or afterthoughts. One just expresses and goes on about their further business, you know? That's selfless service. You don't care what you do, even if people acknowledge, even if people are grateful. It doesn't matter, because it's their business. You don't need to be a part of their life. You can serve without being a part of their life. Nature serves us without being a part of our man-made reality of human paradigm. And this is what the majority of people don't understand. The natural world exists beyond this man-made paradigm. But we're so bound to this man-made paradigm that we ignore the natural world, and we think that this natural world is there to serve us. It's inferior to us. Yet, on the contrary, it can destroy us in a split of a second. And this, what each cycle of corruption shows us, that there is in a split of a second a shift, and that's it. And a lot of beings understand the might of this natural world, that they have lived in delusion of their little man-made reality, or AKA their ant house. They think that their ant house is the universe where any human can come and step on it and destroy it at any point. It has to be a very corrupt human to do so. And we have done so to the natural world as well. We have interfered with the natural world. And the more we try to breach the boundaries of the natural world with our man-made corruption, it's like a tumor is trying to breach into the healthy tissue, the more nature is gathering its power to restore its balance. It doesn't punish, because everything in this world is super intelligent. It's not our human divided or corrupt intelligence that lives in multiplicity. Nature simply needs balance. If anything is off balance, it does all it can to restore that balance. If there is too much sun, there will be rain. So the entire world teaches us of balance. Be off balance, be balanced. And so if we try to invade that balance, we will be thrown off.
Mm.
Because if we are a part of tumor, that tumor eventually will be healed.